Hey everybody, Michael here from Replica Airguns with an interesting video format. You might wonder why I am riding my EUC. This is an EUC, it's not a one-wheel EUC, and making a video about reasons why Replica Airguns are better than real guns. Kind of a weird format, right? Well, it's a beautiful day. I love riding my EUC. Why not ride it on a beautiful day? And I think it's a little more interesting to watch a video like this while I'm doing talking points, as opposed to me sitting in a static environment like a room in front of my computer, which is usually where I do it. So let's see if I make this light. I don't know, it's red, it's red, it's red, it's red. If not, I'll turn right. It's red, it's red, it's red. Let's slow down a little bit. No, I guess we're turning left. We're turning right. Okay, so I'm gonna make the video while I ride, if you don't mind, and let me know if you like this format, or if you hate it, if you think it's stupid. I probably won't make them anymore. All right, first reason why Replica Airguns are possibly better than real guns. You decide. Well, cost. Cost is a big factor when you buy anything. And in generally speaking, airguns are going to be about a quarter of the cost, if not more, than a real gun. Not always, because there are some really high demand airguns that are made out of, a lot of real steel parts. They're almost identical to the real guns. Which a lot of replica guns, they look identical, but in terms of the internals and stuff, it's not always the case. So, but in most cases, you're going to find replica guns are way cheaper because they're just not made to the same high standards, out of the same materials as real guns, high pressure standards. So they're going to be cheaper to buy, and they're going to be a lot cheaper to shoot, because airgun ammunition is way cheaper than real ammunition by a ton, right? Because BBs, pellets, airsoft BBs, even paintball rounds are way cheaper than real ammo. You combine the CO2 or compressed air or whatever you're using, it's still way cheaper. Batteries, it's still way cheaper. All right, difficulty to obtain. Now, airguns in most locations, most places, some places no, but most places like here in Canada, if they don't shoot too fast, they're considered unregulated firearms, which means that anybody can buy them, really. If you're younger, you might need a parents to buy it for you and have them train you and whatnot. Ooh, a little windy here. But yeah, you could pretty much buy an airgun, even if you're a convicted felon, you can buy, which is kind of crazy, I guess, if you think about it. But you can buy an airgun because it's unregulated. So difficulty to obtain, way easier. And then when it comes to like licenses and registration and all that, you don't need to do any of that, right? You don't need a firearms license. You don't need to register the gun. Here in Canada, you do have to register guns, and you do have to have a license for most regulated firearms. And some of them are prohibited to the point where you can't even get them. I got to get through this funky gate here. Yeah, I made it. Okay, well, back to the show. Places to shoot. Well, with an air gun, if you've got, say, an airsoft gun, for instance, you can shoot it in your basement, set up a nice heavy blanket behind it, make sure you don't have too many breakables around, because, there can be things that ricochet off of stuff, and you don't want to break some sort of nice vase that's been in your family for decades. But other than that, if you just got some, basic storage stuff down there, you can shoot your air gun in a basement. You can shoot a lot of air guns in backyards. It depends on your laws and what's going on with local laws and things. But you can shoot air guns, if you have acreage especially, no one's going to complain because they're so quiet. So there's a lot of locations you can shoot them. With real guns, even pistols, you got to use them. You got to shoot them in a fire, at least in Canada, at a gun range. You have to have permits to transfer them, all these things in place to do them. So you don't need any of that with an air gun. Trigger time. So what is trigger time? Trigger time is trigger time. That means you're putting your finger on the trigger and you're shooting a gun. It doesn't have to be a real steel gun. It could be an air gun. It could be anything as long as it has a trigger. Just the act of shooting using a trigger gives you that trigger time, which makes shooting any gun going to be better. You're going to have more trigger time, more experience. You're going to get your grip right. You're going to get your trigger pull right. You don't have to worry so much about another intersection. You don't have to worry so much about recoil with an air gun, and that can affect your shooting and how you hold it and everything. But the concept is basically the same whether you're shooting a real gun or an air gun. So trigger time, super important. You can shoot for way less money, cheaper gun, cheaper ammo, lots of trigger time, shoot it in all kinds of locations way more easily. Safety. This is pretty common sense, right? Now, keep in mind, any gun, we're gonna go this way, any gun is potentially dangerous. Air gun, real gun, treat them all the same. Like, don't take anything for granted. But that said, if you do make a stupid mistake, if you do pop one round off in your wrist or something, you know, you might have to make a trip to the doctor and get it pulled out, but you're probably not gonna lose your arm. You know, you might lose an eye if you're really stupid, but that's generally the worst that can happen in most cases, because air guns just don't have the velocity, they don't have the feet per second, right, foot-pound energy of a real gun. So, you know, if you were to shoot that off by mistake, you know, a real gun, it can go through floors, it can go through walls. If it hits somebody or you, it's going to be ugly, right? So that's always a situation. Way more safety when it comes to air guns. War games and training situations, another obvious point, but you're not going to use a real gun for war games, because if you shoot somebody in a war game with a real gun, they're probably going to suffer greatly or die. And they're definitely not going to be your friend anymore. I guarantee that. So don't use a real gun in any war game or training situation, unless that training situation is very, very regulated and there's no, you know, individuals that you could shoot by accident. Pest control. Pest control can be done with either gun. You know, if you're shooting smaller pests, you don't need super high velocity real guns either, or large caliber. You can go with smaller caliber guns. But the basic point I want to make here is that an air rifle, for instance, is a great tool for pest control. It has just enough power, you know, but not too much. They're super accurate, especially the hunting and target versions. They're super accurate, more accurate than real guns, because you don't have to deal with recoil as much. And you don't have to worry so much about your background. If you shoot over something and it goes in the wind or whatever, it's not going to travel for, you know, for miles and miles and miles, and potentially kill a little kid on a bicycle, you know, several blocks away, right? So you don't have to worry about that. And they're, generally speaking, air guns, pellet rifles are accurate enough out to further ranges, 100 meters or more if you have a high-powered one. And they are powerful enough to get the job done humanely. All right, group prop guns. Got to read this here. Prop guns. So prop guns, you're finding these are being used a lot more these days than real guns. Before, you would have the prop master, and he would, you know, be in charge of the real guns, make sure they weren't getting loaded with real ammunition. But there's been mistakes made in the film industry, and people have died from real guns. So using an airsoft guns, for instance, they look super real. They have the blowback action. You can add in all the ejecting shells and muzzle flashes in post if you need to, with way more safety. If someone were to have a loaded airsoft gun and shoot somebody else, they'd probably say, hey, stop doing that, right? Not say anything, because they're dead. So definitely prop guns, way better to use an air gun if you can. And lastly but not least, social stigma. So what is that? What am I talking about? Well, nowadays, guns are hated by many. It's very political. People are saying that guns kill people, but the matter of the fact is, it's not the guns killing people. It is the people using guns to kill people. That's a fact, right? It's the people who want to kill somebody using a gun. Now, they could use anything to kill that person. They could use a knife. They could use a blunt object. They could use poison. They could run them over with a car, groups of people with a car. They could blow up a whole block if they wanted to. You know, so there's that. You know, if you really want to kill somebody, or a lot of people, you're going to find a way. It doesn't have to be a gun. So, you know, guns don't kill people. They're used to kill people, but they don't kill people. It's the person behind that gun that is killing the people. All right. So if you have an airsoft gun, a BB gun, a pellet gun, a blank gun, you're not going to go out and do a mass shooting with it. You're not going to kill a whole bunch of people. You might, you know, piss off a bunch of people, but you're not going to kill a bunch of people with an air gun, right? That's not the tool for that. No one's going to use that. Now, you can use an air gun. Might be at a dead end here. You can use an air gun to, you know, they look so realistic, those replica guns. You can use them in a crime, you know, rob a store. The person doesn't catch on to the fact that you have an air gun, or if they don't have a real gun and they're firing at you, then it may work. But, you know, if you've got an air gun and they got a real gun, it's not even as good as bringing a knife to a gunfight, because a knife will do more harm than an air gun, or than an air gun will. So don't be using air guns for any crimes at all, because it just makes it more difficult for all of us to buy them. All right, so I think that's it. I think that's all I wanted to say. Let me know again if you like this format, if you think this is cool or stupid or whatever. You can go this way. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Check me out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and also check out our Canada and US online Replica Airgun stores, where we sell air guns, BB guns, airsoft guns, pellet guns, blank guns, and other accessories. All right, thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.